Hi, it's Pat McGuire here, and we're going to talk about getting healthy and healthy living. So let's talk about healthy living. What do you know about it? Are you doing it? I know I have struggled for most of my life trying to have a healthy lifestyle, and it has been more downs than ups. But recently, I found a lifestyle that indeed helps me, and I feel it can help you too. Now, I'm going to share my screen with you so we can go through what I have found and how I can help you. So, we're going to talk about healthy living now. And a healthy lifestyle is one which helps you keep and improve your health and well being. And to achieve this, you need to aim for healthy eating, physical activities, weight management, and stress management. Now, I can tell you, growing up, I was a child of the introduction to frozen meals, packaged foods, and fast food. They all came to being while I was a child. And it definitely had an influence on me. I've spent my entire life trying to get to and or maintain a healthy weight. I have done tons of diets, even some that I knew were ridiculous. I have tried to go through Weight Watchers several times, and I'm not putting down Weight Watchers. I think you have to listen to your body, and there are things that traditional diets were not addressing in my body. And that's kind of what we're going to go through. So what we look at first are what are the food pyramids? Now, there's a standard food pyramid, which is what the American Dietetic Association talks about and the USDA. And of course, you have to have at least 8 glasses of 8 ounces a day for good health and hydration. Why is water important? It's important for your cells to work effectively, but it's also important for helping your body clear out toxins that will cause breakdown of your cells, increase your risk of injuries, increase your risk of immune problems, increase your risk of cancer. So we need that. Now, the standard diet also talks about rice and pasta, fortified cereals and bread, 6 servings a day. They talk about food groups, 2 servings a day, and vegetables, 3. Milk, yogurt, and cheese would be 3 servings. Meat, poultry, fish, dry beans, and nuts, 2. And then using fats, oils, and sweets sparingly, plus adding in calcium, vitamin D, and B12 supplements. Now, isn't that interesting? Standard diet, they talk about adding in supplements. Looking at the vegetarian diet, which means that they cut out the animal fats and proteins for the most part, but they do keep in dairy and eggs. So as you can see here, dairy is 0 to 2 servings a day. So it's interesting. It could be 0. Eggs, 0 to 1. Vegetable oils, 0 to 2. Nuts and seeds, which is our great source of protein, 1 to 2 servings a day. Fruits, 3 to 4, whereas only 2 over here. Vegetables, 6 to 9, whereas only 3 over here. The reason for that is vegetables are a good source of protein, but so are beans, which come down here with legumes and soy, and they say 1 to 3 plus whole grains, 5 to 12. Now, how many of you have heard everybody talking about cutting out the carbs? Well, believe it or not, our body does need carbohydrates. It needs it for the energy source, especially the simple carbohydrate or sugar called glucose. That is our primary energy source, and you get that from all of these. So you need that to be able to really function. So cutting out carbohydrates is not actually the best thing for you. Now, a vegan diet would not have these 2 elements in there. Otherwise, it's similar to a vegetarian diet. But we can get the calcium and other nutrients that you find in dairy from down in here. Eggs, you can find the nutrients down in here and somewhat in here. So you don't necessarily need animal-based products. What you get up here also is the fats that are called saturated fats and cholesterol, which is something that we're always trying to keep to a minimum. So what does a healthy food plate look like? And these are the standard guidelines. They say at least half the plate has to be fruits and vegetables. A quarter of the plate should be whole grains. Now, these don't actually look like whole grains. They look like regular noodles, but you can get whole grain noodles. You can get brown rice. You can get quinoa, other whole grain aspects that can be better for you. And they talk about lean protein. Now, in a vegetarian diet, you wouldn't see this. You'd probably see beans, be they navy beans, pinto beans, red beans, garbanzo beans, which are also called chickpeas. You might even see some portobello mushrooms in that area. But not everybody wants to be totally plant-based, but the closer you get, the healthier you get. So this is an example of a lean fish. So this is the way your plate should look, and now you need to look at your own plates and see how close they are coming to that. Now, could you have increased how much you have of the fruits and vegetables and had less of this? Yes, you could, because you're getting proteins from here. So it doesn't say that if you have that many vegetables, you have to increase the protein. You get more proteins per calorie from vegetables than you do of animal products, because animal products also have a lot of fat in them. Oops, there we go. Now, this is our current reality. As we evolved through, the decade or the centuries, we moved to an upright walking position, but you notice how we stayed relatively slim. But since especially World War II, we have been shifting into this mode. And this is what we're seeing frequently in our towns and our cities. We have parents that are suffering from being overweight and or obese, and their kids are getting that way too. So we need to make a change because we are killing ourselves with our lifestyles. These are the 10 leading causes of death in the US at this point. Now, I'm sure you recognize all of them. The ones in red are called lifestyle diseases. And that is because they are impacted by our lifestyles, by a lot of how we eat. Now, we also can have, problems in here because of smoking. We can have problems in here because of, smoking and drinking. So you can have other things, but the biggest thing is what we're choosing to eat on a daily basis. And some people wonder if some individuals with suicides are also a victim of a lifestyle disease or nutrition disease, because the less healthy you are nutritionally, the more susceptible you are to stress, and the more you struggle to succeed and feel that you're capable. Now, I think you saw on there that one of the risk factors is Alzheimer's. And so AD is Alzheimer's disease. So the risk for Alzheimer is actually decreased with a Mediterranean diet, a Japanese diet, a DASH diet, or a healthy diet. Now, a DASH diet means dietary, okay, I can never say that right. Dietary approaches to stop hypertension. And what all of these have in common is they emphasize fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and a decrease in animal products because of what they don't offer as far as health and nutrition, because they do have more problems with the fats and the cholesterol. So they want to keep those to a minimum. And that's been a recommendation since the late 60s, early 70s. And yet we're not seeing it being put in place in restaurants, fast food places, or a lot of times even our homes, because we tend to buy a lot of things that are not healthy because they're full of fats, salts, and sugars. Now, a healthy diet is the one we've been talking about. The Western diet is the one that we're living at the current time. And that's why we have an increased risk of Alzheimer's disease when you are taking part in a Western diet. Now, I say Western because up until after World War II, the Japanese had a great diet and they had almost no diabetes. They had very low incidence of cancer. But now that their diets have become more westernized, they have a very high rate of type 2 diabetes. Every country that begins to use a very westernized diet increases their risk of all of these. Everyone that Everyone that maintains the more plant-based whole food diet tends to live longer and have less of these diseases. And that's important to realize. Now, what are the products that are useful for the body? When you talk about the brain, if you stay with animal-based, we have salmon, tuna, and sardines. If you go plant-based, we have walnuts, and also other nuts can help somewhat. We look at health of hair, and we have the green vegetables, and the beans, or if you go animal-based, we have salmon. But you notice that we have vegetables or you can have vegetables and. We go to the eyes, and we have corn, carrots, or eggs. But you can have all three, and they'll all help your eyes. The same with muscle. Bananas are there, but also red meat, eggs, and fish. The heart, tomatoes, potatoes, and prune juice. Oh, look at that. There are no animal products in there. Bowels, prunes, or yogurt. Now, there's also other things that can help the bowels, and we'll get into that when we start talking about fiber. The lungs, we have broccoli, Brussels sprouts, Chinese cabbage. So again, we're finding that to help the lungs, we have to use a lot of green leafy vegetables because they have significant antioxidants which help fight against the damage of cigarettes. For skin, blueberries and green tea and/or salmon. For bones, we have oranges, celery, and milk can all help bones. So it's not an either or. You can have both, but indeed, if you went with a whole food plant-based diet, you could still support your body. It's because a lot of people believe that if you cut out the animal and dairy products, you're going to be deficient in nutrients. But this is showing you that you can get your nutrients from either or a combination. But again, it's choices that help. Because what don't you see in here? You don't see pizza. You don't see, Big Macs. You don't see a lot of the stuff that can make life more difficult for us. So one of the things we have to understand, I can tell you, I graduated from medical school in '82, and I was told I learned about nutrition, but what I learned about was the biochemical processes that go on, how, things are broken down. I wasn't really taught about what's important about fats, carbohydrates, and protein. And this has been a chronic problem in the medical field. In 1959, they looked at the medical schools across the country and found only 20% of them even had a required course on nutrition. And again, it wasn't necessarily, the day-to-day, how do you do it? As of, I think it was 2010 or 2012, it's only 25% of medical schools require some sort of nutrition course. And again, it's more biochemically based rather than day-to-day based. And so physicians' ability to understand how your food choices really do affect your daily living is not as strong as we would want. So when we start looking at macronutrients, we talk about fats. Now, everyone's heard about saturated fats, unsaturated fats, polyunsaturated fats, trans fats. So there's a lot of kinds. The one that really is the highest level of problem would be called saturated fats. And the number one source in our country for saturated fats is cheese. And we eat a ton of cheese. The number two is meat. And we eat a ton of meat. Now, what's interesting is if you look at the dairy industry, the amount of cheese produced has been increasing significantly over the last few decades, whereas milk consumption has gone down. But that milk's gone into cheese and yogurt and, ice cream, but basic milk consumption has gone down. So we're getting most of our fats from less healthy versions of what we should be eating. You look at carbohydrates, and we're talking about basically sugars and starch. And with sugars, there's some simple ones, which are glucose, sucrose, and fructose. Now you look at what people hear about high fructose corn syrup. Well, that's mixing corn sugars which are complex and fructose. So you're having a lot of high calorie sugar going into your system. We want the simple sugars because they're the ones that our body uses best, especially the glucose. And so the more we can keep it simple, the better. And of course, people have already said, keep it simple, stupid. That's a good KISS term, right? Now, there's also, which are called starches, and those are complex carbohydrates, which means there are multiple glucose molecules joined together. And as they get apart, they get broken down into the simple, and so they're very effective. Now, in the starches, there's also fiber. And there's two types of fiber. There's what's called soluble fiber and insoluble fiber. Soluble fiber is something you want in your life because it helps slow the digestion of products so that you have a more steady blood sugar and don't feel hungry as fast. And it also absorbs the cholesterol that's in your foods. Now, like I said, over the years, I've tried a lot of stuff and tried to add fiber to my life. And I have some old containers in my house. And I'm going to put my glasses on to read here. And when you talk about fiber, ideally you want to get 25 to 30 or more grams of fiber a day in our diet. And the American Society right now is getting 14, which is why we're having more problems with high cholesterol, colon cancer, and all of that. So if I look at one that I have in my cupboard, okay, it's called Benefiber. And in here it says it has wheat dextrin, which is a soluble fiber. But if you have one serving, you get 3 grams of fiber. And when you talk about we need 25 to 30 or more a day, and the rest of the fiber you'd have to get from your other food, which you can. But if you're trying to supplement with this, you're going to have to take an awful lot of it to do that. I also had in my cupboard appetite control Metamucil. Guess what I was trying to do, right? And it has psyllium husk, which helps, again, it's a soluble fiber. It helps with absorbing and stabilizing the blood sugar. It also has maltodextrin, and then some colors and flavor and aspartame to make it sweet. And it has, for soluble fiber, 5 grams, and then it also has a total of 6 grams of dietary fiber. So that other gram was called insoluble, and I'll talk about that in a second. But again, you're having to take a lot of fiber supplements like this to get what you need if you're not doing a lot in your diet. What I have added, because some days I'm just not as good as others, but every day I take a scoop of what's called Fiber Boost from Arbonne Essentials. And what it has is total dietary fiber is 12 grams, soluble is 12 grams. So if I had 2 of those scoops a day, I would basically just about meet my requirements, but I'm still going to be having my fruits and my vegetables and my whole grains and my legumes. So I definitely do better that way. So I'm helping keep my cholesterol level down. I'm helping stabilize my blood sugar, and I'm helping with digestion and transit times through the bowel to decrease my risk of colon cancer. Now, what they have in here are a blend of maltodextrin, inulin, pea fiber, citrus pectin, apple pectin, orange fiber, and beet fiber. Now, it's fairly tasteless. And what I do is I actually mix it in a 32-ounce bottle that has water, and I also put some Evolution, oops, wrong one. I put some Arbonne Evolution Full Control, which helps again with management of blood sugar levels, especially if you're not yet diabetic, unlike myself. But it has carbohydrate level of 2 with dietary fiber of 1, but it has magnesium, which helps with stabilization of the system. Plus they have saffron, and they have, I can never say this, glucomannan, which is a root powder. So they help with stabilization of blood sugar. And I routinely have 3 to 4 of these bottles a day. And if I have 3, it's already over what the recommended is 64 a day. 2 of these is 64. I usually have 3 to 4, so I'm having 1.5 to 2 times the recommended. But unless you're really drinking really intensely with plain water, you're not going to hurt yourself. So we have to look at that. Now, insoluble fibers are things like a number of vegetables have that, things that you think about celery with the fine fibers. Those are insoluble, but they help with bulking up your stool so it goes out of the system faster, because the longer the residual from nutrition stays in your bowel, the more likely there's going to be inflammation and problems that can put you at risk for colon cancer. So you want to have stuff that can go through relatively quickly, but also get the most nutrition out of it. The next one is proteins. And like I said, you can get proteins from animals or plants. With plants, you have more grams of protein per calorie because plants have so few calories. With protein, animal protein, you have to have more grams of the meat to get the amount of protein, because you're also in that size of meat, you also have a lot of fat. So you're trying to balance that out, because if you have a 3 ounce of steak, you're not going to have as many proteins as you have with 3 ounces of a plant-based. You'll have a lot less calories, and so you can have more calories of plants to get more protein, but you start limiting yourself with the animals because the calories add up and you're also eating a lot of fat at the same time. Now, we also have nutrients, which are called micronutrients, because of course the carbohydrates, fat, and protein were called the macronutrients. And the micronutrients are divided into 2 areas. One is vitamins, and those are products that were developed in plants and animals, so they're called organic, and they're used in our body for many different health reasons. Then there's minerals, which come from soil and water, and they're called inorganic. So the vitamins we get from what we eat, the minerals we also get from what we eat, but they are taken up into the animals and the plants. They're not produced by the animals and the plants. So if we look again at the food pyramids, we're talking about, here for the vitamin D, you get some sunlight, so you don't need the vitamin D. Calcium, you get a lot of calcium from a lot of vegetables. You talk about kale, you talk about other plant-based products, you get a lot of calcium. Now, the only one that you'd have to supplement over here is vitamin B12, because it's not produced much, if at all, in these products. You have to get it from animal products, but you can get that as a supplement. And so you don't necessarily have to start bringing all this in to get your B12. And so you're switching, here it says, 3 servings and 2 servings. So now you get 6 to 9. So you're taking a little more in here, but you're able to fill yourself more. And it's that filling that helps with weight stabilization, not the calories. The next thing we have to look at is physical activity. This is very important because, you know, we're made up of bones, muscle, and then skin. We have to stay active. Activity also helps our brains. And so the more active we are, the better. Now, I can tell you, since January, using a plant-based diet, I have lost, as of this week, 30 pounds, but I have not been able to be as physically active as I wanted because I had a knee injury and had surgery to repair a torn meniscus on May 3rd. So I've been able to lose that weight even though I've not been able to maximize this. Of course, I always maximize this because I'm a forever learner. And since my surgery, I've lost 5 pounds. So I was on the healing end and I'm still losing weight and I'm just beginning to increase this. So physical activity is important, but it's not the end all for losing weight. And I think a lot of people who work to lose weight know that they try very hard on this end, but they're just not getting the weight down the way they want. And we have to talk about weight management. Now, I wouldn't have you look at the ingredients here because they use the same numbers for all three, but we have to look at the nutrition facts on everything that we bring home to put in our body, because you have to look at the salt content, the fiber content, the protein content, the carbohydrate content, and the fat content. If you see any cholesterol in the nutritional facts, you know there's animal-based. Now, some things can be animal-based and not have a listed cholesterol because they don't necessarily have to list it if it's less than 5 grams per serving, but you could still have some cholesterol. But we know that you're not going to get any cholesterol from fruits or vegetables because the cholesterol only comes from animals. We make cholesterol in our own bodies, but then we also eat the cholesterol that the animals made in their bodies. So looking at our choices can make a big difference. And part of that also can be serving size. Now, when you talk about serving sizes of fruits and vegetables, they can be very large serving sizes because calorie-wise, they're not very high. Nutrition-wise, they are packed with vitamins and minerals that you need and can use. The next area is sleep, because sleep affects all of our bodily functions. Now, hopefully you all want to sleep like this. Unfortunately, a lot of people probably sleep like this. Now, this one talks about school, but you don't have to be a teacher to look like this. A lot of us look like this. We're burning the candle at both ends. And so you have to look at, you know, are you getting enough quality sleep? This is quality, this is not. If you're doing this, then you are increasing your risk of high blood pressure, heart disease, and obesity, just because you're not getting quality sleep. Doesn't matter how many calories you're taking in. It doesn't matter about the other exercise. If you're not getting enough sleep, you're increasing the risk of all those chronic health problems. The last is stress reduction. We have to learn how to take time to de-stress. And you can do it at work. Kids are doing it in schools, and the schools are finding that if they teach kids stress reduction techniques, they have less behavioral problems and better academics. So the more we can learn how to de-stress, how to move away from what I call the limbic system of our brain, which is the fight or flight area, the healthier we will be. Now, can this work in real life? Yes, I'm showing you my numbers from when I moved here in November, okay, and this is my glucose, and it's a fasting glucose, and it's 144. Now, normal is 70 to 99. Come April, it was down to 131, which is still elevated, but you're talking about 13 points. And this was just before I had my knee surgery. People with type 1 or type 2 diabetes, or anyone, when you have inflammation, you have more erratic blood sugar control. So I'm expecting the next time I see my doctor in a few months that this will be down because my knee is healed and I'm continuing to lose weight. And so I'm getting better and better control over my metabolism. This also shows, I originally saw the doctor the first time in April 2016. It was 6.6, which was high. You want less than 5.7. By the time I moved here in November, it was 7.2. Okay, because I was stressed. I was trying to, clean out and close a building and a house and sell both. And so it showed up because my eating habits went hell in a handbasket, basically. But then at the end of January, I started a plant-based diet, and here it is now, just above the upper range. And like I said, I was just before surgery, so I still had inflammation, which was affecting my blood sugar levels. But even with that, I was almost back into the average range. When you look at this number, they would actually call it pre-diabetic because they break diabetes down into non-diabetic, which is less than 5.7, pre-diabetic, which goes up to 6.9 or 7.0, and diabetic, which is over 7. So I went from diabetic to pre-diabetic. And that was in 1 year. But really, it was in, not about 6 months? So I would say that a diet can make a difference. In summary, we need to look at our health and nutrition. We have to really start increasing the amount of whole food, plant-based nutrition into our body, which can help a lot of things. And we have to start fighting against the high saturated fats, high salt, high sugar diets that we have been, living with, because then we can live a healthier and better life. And of course, we look at this. Healthy lifestyle is vegetables, sleep, energy, protein, activities, movement, stress management. These are all important. Getting your family involved, all very important. Now, what I'd like to suggest and invite you to do is contact me to join me in Arbonne in what's called the 30 Days to Healthy Living and Beyond. It's clean eating for busy people. And with this, you buy a 30 days packet, which retails for $434, but as a preferred client, it's down to $260. So it costs you about $868 a day to do this. Now, that's not including your supper, because we're talking about, breakfast, maybe lunch, using these products, but then supper time having a healthy living type meal, kind of like the plate I showed you. But even so, if you look at what you're doing now, what are you spending for lunch? What are you spending for breakfast? Are you eating breakfast? Because you're not eating breakfast, you're also hurting your body. And if you decide, however, that you'd love to be part of the opportunity to share with people healthy living, you could become an independent consultant with me, and then you would end up paying $217. And with that, you would get protein shakes, chocolate, vanilla, or one of each, 60 servings of the Fizz Sticks, 40 servings of the detox tea, which could be part of your water intake, 30 servings per day of probiotics, prebiotics, and digestive enzyme, 7 days of a body cleanser. And yeah, you don't take this by itself. You take it as part of your daily diet for 7 days. It helps support your liver in cleaning out the toxins. And then a 30-day supply of Fiber Boost, which I said already gives you 12 grams, or almost half of your daily recommended intake of soluble fiber. So I'd love to have you join me. 30 days can be anytime you want, but Arbonne does have a Facebook support group that starts every 2 weeks. The next one starts on Monday, July 3rd. So I'd love to see you, and I'd love to help you to do this, and together we can increase our healthy living. So if you're interested in joining this movement to healthy living, email me at patriciamcgee@myarbonne.com, or give me a call at 319-350-3646. I have enjoyed, sharing my knowledge with you, and I really hope you will join me as we work to have healthy lives together. Talk to you later.